Hey there swarmers, thanks for joining us back in the hive. If you like what we do, make sure to please give us a thumbs up, share our channel and maybe even consider subscribing. It's totally free. Thanks so much in advance. So this is part 2 of a mini-series covering some of the most common arguments against climate action that we are faced with. Although it's more and more difficult to believe that people still don't think the climate crisis is really happening, we know that to be true. And we also know that often the arguments against climate action are based on fear of some sort. So in this video, we dive into some more of these arguments and how you can handle them, ideally in a polite and respectful way. Number 1, they say, it would have been good if we did something about this 30 years ago, but it's just too late. Climate change is locked in. You say, okay, Doomer. No, just kidding. Don't really say that. Try this. There's definitely an element of truth in what you're saying. We absolutely should have made bigger changes decades ago, but it isn't actually too late to start now. That would be the same as finding a cancer the size of a grape rather than when it was the size of a sultana and saying, don't worry about surgery or chemotherapy, I'm cooked. Even though the oncologist is telling you that you can still survive this. I don't think that you'd give up your chance of survival. You'd explore every avenue medicine could offer. So I don't think it's fair that you give up on your grandchildren's chances before they're even born. I understand that this problem is overwhelming. It's not called an existential crisis and the biggest threat to human existence for nothing. But I owe it to future generations to do my best. And if doing my best to reduce the impacts of the climate crisis also leads me to a healthier and frugal, less expensive life, all the better. We can all experience moments or even days of feeling like this problem is insurmountable. But I'm constantly given hope by looking at the growing number of people taking action to demand system change. Did you see the scientists and doctors taking to the streets to help raise awareness? This fills me with optimism. I can see why you'd be feeling like it's too late to change our trajectory. The media sometimes report the science in ways that sell papers, but I don't buy into it. So can I suggest some alternative sources for your information so that you can feel less hopeless about it too? Number 2, they say moving to all this renewable energy will send the country bankrupt and millions of people will be out of work. You say the cost of not moving to renewable energy is decades of unthinkable suffering as we all try to get enough food, shelter from the burning sun and rising seas, and not die from vector-borne diseases before the ultimate end of human life on this planet. So do I think that a few years of reduced GDP growth is too much to ask? No, I don't. Yeah, sure, the picture of disaster sounds dramatic, but it is based on truth. As opposed to the picture that the fossil fuel companies are trying to sell us, that millions of people will be left destitute and our manufacturing industry will crumble and we'll all pay more for power due to this transition. Firstly, although the fossil fuel industry in the US employs nearly 2 million people, this is more than 1 million less than the number of people employed in the clean energy sector. Secondly, building new renewable energy is cheaper than running existing coal. Thirdly, renewable energy produces cheaper electricity than from coal, so as a consumer, you'll get a better deal. Fourthly, clean energy jobs pay more than the average US wage. 45% of people in the clean energy sector have a high school diploma but get paid more than their equivalently educated peers in other industries. Fifthly, yeah, sure, that's a word. If a true just transition is implemented, regional towns which are fossil fuel hubs could flourish, never mind breathe easier without the air pollution, when they're moved to become a renewable energy hub. Lastly, the manufacturing industry will see an uplift if moved to renewable energy also. There will also be a huge benefit for countries supporting their own domestic economies. There have been many reports and studies and projections about the economic gains we could see from moving to renewable energy. So could I send you some of these to have a read? And number 3, they say, there are enough issues in my life without me thinking about this one, which won't even affect me. You say, I can see why you'd think that the climate crisis won't impact you. We're really privileged to live where we do and not have to worry about where our next meal comes from, not have to think twice about turning on the AC when it's super hot. Side note, we really should think twice before we hit the switch on appliances like that. The climate crisis will certainly affect the poorest populations first. That's why climate activists are asking for climate justice. But this life of privilege isn't untouchable either. The impacts might not be visible at first, or every day, or even in the next few years, but we will be held to ransom by food production prices. Things at the grocery store will continue to go up and up as accessibility of the foods go down. We'll have to pay more and more for insurance premiums on cars and homes. Some locations will be deemed as uninsurable. We'll experience fires, floods, and fierce storms closer and closer to home more and more often. Even if your home isn't damaged, chances are those of your friends and family will be. We'll see animals as well as people moving inland away from coastal destruction, so we're more likely to see additional animal and vector-borne diseases appearing. Then there's of course the land space to consider, with all the millions of people needing to relocate inland. Can you imagine the crowding and even more heightened housing crisis? Rental prices skyrocketing while jobs are more difficult to secure. So even if these things don't impact you right now, your grandkids and great-grandkids won't thank you for your lack of action when they're dealing with the worst of things to come. So I challenge you to look beyond your current levels of personal comfort to consider the broader community and generations down the line. Now look, this is a tricky argument to counter with tact and grace, to be honest. It's difficult to avoid it getting personal, but the antagonist kind of made it personal by adopting a selfish stance. So be kind, be authentic, be patient, and don't feel bad if this particular person simply won't see the truth of the matter. In all of your conversations, and we implore you to have more and more chats with people about this threat to humanity, it's necessary to aim for an open and respectful conversation, because we don't necessarily know what has led that person to hold that particular view. So get in there with some questions and find out. Don't forget to share below an argument from a climate delayer, distractionist or doomer that you've come across. I'm sure we've only just scratched the surface. Until next time, swarmers, stay safe, stay healthy and stay sustainable.